What's up, YouTube and people around the world? This is a video I'm going to upload to my YouTube channel, The Laser Beam of Truth, which is a channel that I started in 2011. And the reason this is going to be a different video relative to a lot of the videos that I've uploaded. I'm not going to show you anything projects-wise that I'm doing or anything like that. I'm just going to talk and tell you something actually a lot more like some of the original videos that I uploaded to this channel. So back in 2011, I was awake back then, and I was a truther back then, and I was uploading videos, which is why the channel that I upload these to is called The Laser Beam of Truth. At the time, I had a lot of time on my hands, and there were a lot of things that I was curious about that I wanted to dig into and kind of learn about, and then share with the world what I learned. Among those videos, sometime in 2011, I made a video about the Hebrew Israelites, which is a notion that biblical Israelites were African descendants. They were black people. This is a concept that was very fascinating to me back in 2011. I learned a lot about it, made a video about it. And it really resonated with me. I believe that is the truth. To this day, that is gospel in my opinion. I believe that in African, 2,000 years ago, the people that we refer to as Israelites were all of African descent. Having said that, fast forward a year. I'm not going to get into the exact circumstances because it's really not relevant, but I got thrown in jail. I got thrown in jail one time in my life. It was a circumstance where I got sentenced for something. It was marijuana related. I'll say that. But it was a crime that I allegedly committed back in 2012. And it was actually the judge was actually he was a big baseball fan, and I was getting sentenced on Monday after the Detroit Tigers had just lost the ALCS, I believe it is, which would have been the series that put them to the World Series. Either that, it was the World Series. I'm not a big baseball fan, and I don't really remember. But I remember that the Detroit Tigers had just lost that Sunday night, and it was a big game. It was one of the series. And so I was the first case of the day. And I was really hoping I wouldn't have to go to jail. But I ended up having to go to jail. And it was like 11 days or something like that. It wasn't that bad. Anyways, we all learn lessons in these moments in time. And, obviously I wasn't really excited about getting thrown in jail, but there I was, 11 days in, I'll just say, a mid-Michigan county jail. And I wasn't a, dangerous person, so they kept me in what they call the M dorm, or the men's dormitory. This is where they keep all of the low offensive type people, your marijuana offenders, drunk drivers, deadbeat dads back on their child support, get arrested, thrown in jail, that kind of thing. Anyways, so there I was in jail for 11 days, and I'm a pretty easy to get bored guy in a situation like that. So I was really just kind of trying to, keep my head down, not get in any kind of trouble while I was there, not make my situation any worse, and just, do my time, get out, and go home, right? So I picked up books, and I started reading every book I could find, which wasn't many in this area. Most of the books that I could find were, fourth grade reading level type stuff. I suppose trying to cater to the people that you might expect to find in jail without a whole lot of education, which is not me at all. So I was finding every book I could that was interesting to me, which didn't last long. I went through a couple of different novels in a matter of days, like novels that were like this thick, and when I was first there, though, there was also this instance where, other people got brought in from other places. And in this particular day, a bus came in from Detroit. And apparently Detroit ships people around when they don't have room in their jail. They'll send them to other surrounding county jails. Well, so Detroit sent a bus to the jail that I was staying at. And they sent a bus with like 6 guys on it to stay in this jail for a period of time. So they march these guys in like any other, situation like that, and everybody, checks out the new people, not because it's, something they're trying to intimidate, but in a situation like that, you're really kind of bored and everything is interesting, that's new and novel, and so everybody's checking out the new guys that are walking in, and I noticed one particular young man. He was a young black man from Detroit. He must have been 18 or 19 years old, and he had a very, very frightened look on his face. Now, keep in mind, M-Dorm, or the place that I was, again, it's a mid-Michigan area county jail that I was locked up in, right? And so most of the people in there were kind of rednecky. Most of them were white. It was a 40-person dorm. I don't think there were 40 guys in there. I think there were maybe 36 or 37 guys in there most of the time I was there. And of those 36 or 37 guys, I think maybe 5 or 6 of them were black guys, African Americans. So I knew this young man probably had a very, very fearful feeling in his mind, because he's getting thrown in jail with mostly white people, and coming from Detroit as a young man, I have no idea how much experience he had, but he clearly was intimidated about his circumstances. So I decided to go talk to him, and trying to comfort this young man in any way that I could think of. And I didn't really have a real game plan for that, and I don't know exactly why I went for this, but I strolled up to him and struck up a conversation, and just kind of mentioned that he looked like he was a little green around the gills or something like that. I don't remember exactly what I said, but kind of just let him know that my intentions were positive, and that I was trying to I guess assuage any fears that he had that he was going to have a hard time being in jail. Not that anybody has a good time in jail, but anyways. So I decided to tell him the story about the video that I made of the Hebrew Israelites. And the reason for that was that there is a couple of scriptures that I found on a website that some people believe that really kind of points the finger in the direction of this particular truth. And one of the scriptures that I had remembered, and I told him, was Revelations 3:9, which is a passage, and it basically, I'm going to walk over to my computer so I can read this real quick. Revelations 3:9 says, "Look at those who belong to the synagogue of Satan and who claim to be Jews but are liars, and I will make them come and bow at your feet, and they will know that I have loved you." There's also Revelations 2:9, which talks again about fake Jews and how thou art poor, but thou will be rich. In a nutshell, though, I kind of talked about the general concept of Hebrew Israelites, and I also talked about where I felt we were on this whole timeline of things. The new world, heaven's kingdom, the golden age that's prophesied in the Bible, those types of things. And though I didn't believe we were living in the book of Revelations back in 2012, obviously the whole 2012 year was surrounded by that very notion, the end of the age. And that really is the beginning of when all of these things that we're living right now were set into motion. So anyways, I comforted him for a little bit and kind of told him about the Hebrew Israelites. And after a little bit, he kind of was hanging out with some other black folks that were in an area of the jail. And they were kind of looking at me like, who's this crazy white guy and why is he talking about the Bible with all of us? And so I started picking that vibe up and decided to excuse myself, and just kind of went back to my cubicle for the remainder of basically my stay in jail. I never really talked to that young man again. By the way, his name was Joshua. So I didn't talk to Joshua up until another point, and there was only 2 interactions that Joshua and I ever had. That first one, and then the last one is what I'm going to get to you now. So I had kind of went back into my routine of just staying to myself and reading my books as I was in jail. And I was getting close to the day that I was basically getting let out. I was like a few days away from going home. And I had run out of things to read. Like, I just couldn't find anything else that wasn't a 4th grade reading level anywhere in the jail. And so they had a few Bibles, of course. There was like a small stack of these giant, I don't know, I think it was some new King James version of the Bible. It was like that thick, 1,700 some odd pages or something. It was a really big Bible. It was like, you could use it as a booster seat. It was like 4 inches thick. Anyways, So one day, late at night, just before lights out, I had picked up one of these Bibles and I was sitting in the middle of the M dorm, which is, this whole space was all just one big community area. And in the center of it was kind of like a cafeteria type space with cafeteria chairs. And I was sitting at the end of this cafeteria table with the King James version of the Bible. And I was kind of flipping through the book of Corinthians. And I'm going to go back to my computer so I can read this other verse. There was the verses that you see or hear often at the weddings and things like that I first looked at. And I realized, this is a verse that I hear all the time, so I'm not interested in that. And I flipped some more further into the book of Corinthians, and I found Corinthians 1:14, and I'll read it for you. Pursue love and desire spiritual gifts, but especially that you may prophesy. For he who speaks in tongues does not speak to men, but to God. And for no one understands him. However, in the Spirit, he speaks mysteries. But he who prophesies speaks edification and exhortation and comfort to men. He who speaks in tongue edifies himself, but he who prophesies edifies the church. I wish you all spoke in tongues, but even more that you prophesied. For he who prophesies is greater than he who speaks in tongues, unless indeed he interprets, that the church may receive edification. And I had just read this verse, and there was a lot of speaking about prophecy, and as I was reading it, I was thinking about how what I had just read reminded me of what I had done earlier, or the week before, when I first saw Joshua and I decided to talk to him, because I was speaking prophetically about the time that we're living in now, that we're about to enter, and about how a time is going to come where we are not under the thumb of governments so much and getting thrown in jail for these arbitrary crimes like we all were, everybody there really, but more so just reaching out to him and trying to give him comfort and speaking prophetically. And then lo and behold, again, this was all still processing in my head, and he walked over to me, and he had a Bible in his hands, and he was like, hey, I was just wondering if you could help me understand this thing in the Bible that I just read. And I looked at him, and I kind of got a really frightful, panicked look in my eye, probably because I'm not somebody that even really talks about the Bible very much. I don't bring it up in conversation. I'm not a preachy kind of a guy. I do believe in God, and I also believe in a wide variety of other theological beliefs, from Native American traditions to Eastern tradition. So I'm not just a Christian, but I very much believe in all of it, and I very much believe in God. And he asked me this, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm really just not sure if I'm the person to ask, because this isn't something I normally do, but I'll give it a shot. What verse do you want? What are you reading? And he pulled his finger down, and he had his finger on the exact same verse that I had just read that was still coalescing in my own mind. And it was like God was touching me on the shoulder, saying, you were doing this just a week ago, and I want you to know that it was a good thing and that you're on the path, right? And just like that, my entire time in jail had meaning. And that entire incident is a reminder to me to speak prophetically and to love others, but to speak prophetically in a way that comforts them and that edifies the church, and that edifies God, and that God exists, that people will believe and have faith themselves if you show faith for them and with them to comfort them. So I'm not sure how well this message is going to resonate. I hope it does. Again, this isn't like my normal content, but I just felt like it was a good time to just throw this out there, given the circumstances of the world that we're in. I've lost a lot of friends and family members who think I'm crazy because, a lot of people think, one of my good friends, John and I were talking recently, and John said, doesn't the Bible say that it's, a sin to divinate? And isn't it divination to, claim to know the future? But I don't claim to know the future, and I never really do. Speaking prophetically doesn't really require that you know the future. It requires that you have faith in God and that all things are in a divine plan that is going to be okay, right? And that when you get to that place, wherever it is you're going to see that too. And you just don't see it yet, maybe, but it's coming. And that's kind of the world that we've all been living this past several years as kind of COVID has torn the very nature of reality and thrown it into the shredder so that people can kind of sort through it and figure out which strand of reality is the one they want to subscribe to. But I think we're all coming back to the same page soon. And I think that shredder is going to get unshredded, and soon reality is going to be something we can all agree on, and everything is going to be good again. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. My dog wants to go outside. So take care. God bless. Laser Beam of Truth signing out. See ya.